No one in the galaxy noticed the sound at first. It was not loud. It was not violent. It was just impossible. A ripple passed through the deep space sensors of Station Prime, the heart of the Galactic Council. A signal appeared where no signal should exist. Not a weapon discharge. Not an engine flare. A request. Clean. Calm. Polite. Unidentified fleet requesting diplomatic entry. For the first time in millions of cycles, the automated systems hesitated. The Galactic Council had stood unchanged for longer than most stars survived. Species rose, learned spaceflight, joined the Council, or destroyed themselves before they ever earned the chance. Order was slow. Progress was careful. Nothing happened quickly. Except today. Station Prime floated in the void between galaxies, a structure so vast that gravity bent around it. Inside its endless chambers, over 4,000 species watched the same message repeat across their displays. The translation engines struggled, not with the language, but with the origin. The signal came from a species officially classified as non-relevant. Humans. Council observer Tarl Ren felt his skin tighten in disbelief. His species evolved to sense probability shifts, and right now, every instinct screamed the same warning. This was wrong. Humans were catalogued only 2 centuries ago. Primitive. Divided. Violent. Barely surviving on a single unstable world. The galaxy had seen thousands like them. They were not supposed to be here. Tarl Ren floated closer to the observation platform as the external view activated. Stars bent. Space folded inward. And then the fleet arrived. Thousands of ships emerged from folded space in perfect formation. Not scattered. Not aggressive. Disciplined. Purposeful. Every vessel held position with flawless precision, as if guided by a single mind. The largest structure made several council members recoil. It was not a ship. It was a moving city. A vast construct wrapped in rotating habitats, glowing with controlled fusion light. Shipyards were visibly active along its edges. Smaller vessels launched and returned with clockwork efficiency. Someone whispered across the chamber. That structure violates at least 12 known engineering limits. Tarl Ren swallowed. That structure violates fear. Alarms did not sound. Weapons did not charge. The human fleet simply waited. Inside the council chamber, chaos spread in waves. Delegates argued. Analysts demanded reclassification. Military observers silently ran threat simulations that returned one answer again and again. Unacceptable losses. High Arbiter HFY, one of the oldest beings in known space, finally rose from his throne. His voice carried authority earned across 10 million cycles. Silence. The chamber obeyed. Explain, HFY said. How does a species barely out of its gravity well arrive here? Tarl Ren stepped forward, his voice unsteady but clear. They learned faster than we expected. When they discovered they were not alone, they did not panic. They accelerated. Holographic images appeared. Earth. Cities growing upward and outward. Old borders erased. Conflicts ended not by peace, but by necessity. They unified. Tarl Ren continued. Not perfectly. Not peacefully. But effectively. The images shifted again. Humans building ships in orbit. Humans testing engines that failed violently, then rebuilding them stronger. Humans mourning losses, then returning to work the next day. They reverse-engineered fragments of our probe technology, he said. Then they improved it. Gasps echoed through the chamber. That is impossible, one delegate hissed. No, Tarl Ren replied softly. It is human. A new signal interrupted the debate. The human fleet transmitted again. This time, a visual. A single human appeared on the central projection. She stood in a plain uniform, no symbols of conquest, no weapons visible. Her hair showed streaks of gray. Her posture was calm. My name is Director Amora Solis, she said. I represent the United Earth Coalition. Her eyes scanned the unseen chamber, not with fear, but with curiosity. We know we are late, she continued. And we know we are unexpected. Some council members leaned forward. We did not come to threaten, Amora said. And we did not come to beg. That sentence alone caused panic spikes across multiple species. We came because we learned something important, she said. The universe is dangerous. Isolation is death. Cooperation is survival. Silence followed. Amora took a breath. For centuries, we fought ourselves. Over land. Over belief. Over fear. It nearly destroyed us. Her voice hardened, not with anger, but honesty. Then we learned the galaxy existed. And suddenly, our differences felt small. Behind her, the projection shifted. Images of humans and ships working together. Engineers. Soldiers. Scientists. Farmers. We are not perfect, she said. But we are stubborn. When faced with extinction, we adapt. When faced with impossible odds, we innovate. She looked directly forward, as if meeting the eyes of every species at once. You watched us from the shadows, she said. You classified us as dangerous. A faint smile appeared. You were right. Murmurs spread. But danger is not always destruction, Amora continued. Sometimes it's potential. High Arbiter HFY felt something unfamiliar. Hope. What do you want? He asked. Amora answered without hesitation. A seat, she said. A voice. And a chance to prove that humanity belongs among the stars. The transmission ended. The chamber remained silent long after the image vanished. Talren realized his probability senses had gone quiet. Not because the future was safe, but because it was finally open. Beyond the chamber walls, the human fleet waited patiently, engines dimmed, weapons cold. They did not posture. They did not threaten. They simply waited. For the galaxy to decide. And for the first time in millions of cycles, the Galactic Council understood one terrifying truth. The universe had not prepared for humanity. And humanity had arrived anyway. The diplomatic shuttle was small. That alone unsettled the Galactic Council. It emerged from the vast human fleet without escort, without visible weapons, and without hesitation. Compared to the massive alien war vessels surrounding Station Prime, it looked fragile, almost humble. Almost. Inside the council chamber, tension pressed down like gravity. Thousands of delegates watched the single human craft glide toward the docking ring. No shields flared. No threats were issued. Humans did not arrive as conquerors. They arrived as equals. Council observer Talren stood near the edge of the chamber, his senses stretched thin. Probability ripples danced wildly. Every possible future branched and twisted around this moment. One wrong word could ignite a war. One right word could change the galaxy forever. The docking clamps engaged. The chamber doors sealed. And then, for the first time in galactic history, a human stepped into the heart of the Galactic Council. Director Amora Solis walked alone. She did not wear ceremonial armor. She did not bow deeply or show fear. She walked with steady confidence, boots echoing softly against the ancient floor. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were sharp, taking in every detail. Thousands of alien eyes studied her. Some saw weakness. Some saw danger. None saw insignificance. Amora reached the center platform and stopped. She looked up at the towering tiers filled with beings older than her entire species. She did not rush to speak. She waited. The silence stretched. This was intentional. High Arbiter HFY felt it then, the subtle shift. Humans understood something most species never learned. Silence was a weapon. When Amora finally spoke, her voice was clear and unamplified. Members of the Galactic Council, she said, thank you for allowing us to arrive in peace. Translation systems scrambled to keep up. Her language was direct, efficient, and oddly poetic. You classified my species as primitive, she continued. That assessment was fair, at the time. A few delegates bristled. We were violent, Amora said. Divided. Short-sighted. We nearly destroyed ourselves more times than we can count. She paused. And yet, we survived. Images appeared behind her. Not weapons. Not ships. People. Humans rebuilding cities after disasters. Scientists working through exhaustion. Soldiers standing between civilians and chaos. Farmers growing food in poisoned soil. We learned something important the hard way, she said. Comfort makes species slow. Struggle makes us inventive. Taro Ren felt a sharp spike in probability. This was not a plea. This was a declaration. Amora lifted her head. You fear our speed, she said. Our adaptability. Our refusal to follow expected paths. She nodded once. You should. Gasps rippled through the chamber. But fear does not have to lead to violence, Amora added. It can lead to preparation. Cooperation. Growth. A towering reptilian delegate rose abruptly. You arrive with a fleet capable of annihilation, it hissed. And you speak of peace. Amora met the creature's gaze without flinching. Yes, she said. Because peace without strength is begging. And strength without restraint is destruction. She gestured subtly. Our fleet is armed, she admitted. Because the universe is not kind. We learned that early. Her voice softened. But we did not come to test those weapons. The chamber grew quiet again. High Arbiter HFY leaned forward. Why reveal yourselves now? He asked. Why not wait until your power was unquestionable? Amora smiled faintly. Because we are tired of hiding, she said. And because power grows faster when shared. That statement sent shockwaves through several scientific delegations. Humans innovate best together, she continued. Not just with ourselves, but with others. She took a slow breath. We did not unite our planet because we wanted an empire, Amora said. We united because extinction does not care about borders. The images shifted again, this time showing the human fleet from multiple angles. That fleet is not built for conquest, she said. It's built for survival. A metallic-skinned delegate interrupted. Then why build something so powerful? Amora answered immediately. Because when the universe comes for us, she said, we intend to survive it. The honesty of the answer stunned the chamber. No deception. No grandstanding. Just truth. Taro Ren realized something terrifying. Humans were not pretending to be harmless. They were choosing to be restrained. Amora looked around the chamber one last time. We are not asking for trust, she said. Trust must be earned. She placed her hand over her heart, a human gesture that meant nothing to the council, yet somehow meant everything. We are asking for the chance to earn it. She stepped back. I will answer any questions, she said. Openly. The council chamber erupted. Delegates argued, demanded data, accused humans of manipulation. Military observers pushed for containment. Scientists begged for access to human engineering. Through it all, Amora stood still. She answered every question. Calmly. Clearly. Without lies. Hours passed. Then days. And something unprecedented happened. Fear began to fade. Not because humans were less dangerous, but because they were understandable. Finally, High Arbiter HFY rose. Humanity, he said slowly, you are unlike any species we have encountered. Amora inclined her head slightly. You terrify us, HFY continued. And you intrigue us. That drew a faint smile from Amora. Both are fair reactions, she said. The ancient arbiter studied her for a long moment. The council will deliberate, he announced. Until then, your fleet will remain under observation. Amora nodded. We expected nothing less. As she turned to leave, Taro Ren felt the probability field settle, not into certainty, but into possibility. The galaxy had not rejected humanity. It had not embraced them either. But the door was no longer closed. And outside Station Prime, thousands of human ships waited patiently, engines silent, crews hopeful. Humanity had spoken. Now the galaxy had to decide whether it was ready to listen. The test began without warning. No announcement echoed through Station Prime. No formal declaration was made. The Galactic Council did not even realize it had started the moment it did. It began with a scream of alarms. A deep space rupture tore open at the edge of Council-controlled space, far beyond normal transit lanes. Sensors flared red across thousands of displays. Energy readings spiked to impossible levels, then twisted into patterns no known physics could explain. Tyrell Wren felt the probability field shatter. This was not a war. This was a disaster. A delegation of energy-based beings cried out first. Their kind could sense distortions in space-time long before machines could measure them. A void fracture, they transmitted in panic. Unstable. Expanding. High Arbiter HFY rose instantly. How long? He demanded. Silence followed. Then a response, cold and terrifying. Less than one standard cycle before collapse. Collapse meant annihilation. The rupture was forming near a densely populated trade corridor. Tens of billions of lives across multiple systems were at risk. Evacuation was impossible. Containment had never been achieved before. The Council had encountered void fractures only twice in recorded history. Both times, entire sectors vanished. Military commanders issued frantic orders. Scientists argued over containment theories that had failed a million times before. The chamber dissolved into controlled chaos. Amid it all, one voice cut through the noise. We can help. Every eye turned. Director Amora Solis stood at the edge of the chamber, her expression sharp, focused, not afraid. High Arbiter HFY hesitated. This is not your concern, he said carefully. This threat predates your species. Amora shook her head. Extinction doesn't care about seniority, she said. If that rupture spreads, it will reach our fleet too. She stepped forward. And we've dealt with unstable physics before. That earned disbelief from half the chamber. Void fractures were not storms. They were tears in reality itself. Gravity reversed. Time distorted. Matter ceased to obey rules. Nothing survived them. Nothing. Except maybe humans. Tyrell Wren felt the probability field shift again, violently. Explain, HFY said. Amora activated her wrist console. A projection appeared, raw, messy, human. We call it the cascade problem, she said. We discovered it while testing early faster-than-light drives. Murmurs spread. You tore holes in space by accident, someone demanded. Amora nodded once. Yes, she said. And we lost ships. Crews. Entire facilities. Her voice did not waver. But we learned. The projection changed. Mathematical models scribbled over simulations. Human scientists arguing, failing, correcting. We can't seal a void fracture, she admitted. But we can starve it. The chamber fell silent. That's impossible, a council physicist said. A void fracture feeds on energy differentials. Exactly, Amora replied. So we remove the difference. She zoomed in on the rupture model. We collapse the surrounding space in a controlled way, she explained. Force reality to agree with itself again. Several species recoiled. That would destroy everything nearby. Amora met their fear head-on. Yes, she said. Which is why we do it precisely. The Council hesitated. Human technology was untested. Their theories reckless. Their confidence alarming. But the clock was running out. High Arbiter HFY closed his eyes. What do you require? He asked. Amora did not smile. Permission, she said. And trust. Silence stretched for a long moment. Then the ancient arbiter spoke words that echoed across history. Permission granted. The human fleet moved instantly. Orders rippled through thousands of ships with seamless coordination. Vessels repositioned, forming vast geometric patterns around the distant rupture. Energy fields activated, not as shields, but as anchors. Council observers watched in stunned silence. Humans were not charging weapons. They were building a solution in real time. At the center of the formation, the massive human mobile station adjusted its orbit. Entire sections rotated, reconfiguring into something new. A machine no one had ever built before. Tyrell Wren's probability senses screamed. This could save everything. Or end it all. Human engineers worked without pause. Failures were corrected instantly. If a system overheated, another replaced it within seconds. They did not wait for perfection. They adapted. As the rupture expanded, space twisted violently. Several human ships were torn apart in silent flashes of light. The fleet did not retreat. They adjusted. Amora watched from the command deck, hands steady. Collapse field at 60%, she ordered. But that exceeds, an officer began. Do it, she said calmly. The machine activated. Space folded inward, not violently, but deliberately. Energy readings spiked, then dropped. The rupture screamed, not in sound, but in physics. And then, it slowed. Council sensors struggled to confirm it. The void fracture stopped expanding. A stunned silence fell across Station Prime. Impossible, whispered a delegate. Humans pushed harder. The collapse field stabilized. Reality knitted itself back together piece by piece. The rupture shrank, resisted, then finally snapped shut in a blinding flash. When the sensors cleared, it was gone. No expanding death. No annihilated sector. Just empty, silent space. Cheers erupted across human channels. Inside the council chamber, no one spoke. High Arbiter HFY felt something ancient and heavy settle in his chest. A truth. Humans did not wait for permission to survive. They simply refused to die. Tyrell Wren felt the probability field settle into something rare. Hope. The cost became clear moments later. Dozens of human ships were lost. Thousands of lives. Amora bowed her head briefly. Then she looked up. We're ready to answer your questions, she said. The Galactic Council had intended to test humanity. Instead, humanity had saved the galaxy. And the Council realized, far too late, that the balance of power had already changed. The Council chamber had never felt so small. Even with its towering ceilings and endless tiers, the weight of what had just happened pressed in from every side. The void fracture was gone. Entire sectors still existed because of human intervention. Trillions of lives would never know how close they had come to oblivion. And the humans had paid the price without hesitation. Council observer Tyrell Wren watched as updated casualty reports scrolled across his display. The numbers made his probability senses ache. Humans had known the risk. They had acted anyway. High Arbiter HFY remained standing long after the last emergency alert faded. His ancient eyes moved across the chamber, reading fear, awe, resentment, and something far more dangerous. Respect. Human Director Amora Solis, he said at last, his voice echoing through the vast space, you acted without obligation. You risked your fleet. You lost lives. Amora met his gaze. We protect our own, she said. Today, that included you. That answer unsettled many delegates more than any display of force. The debate that followed was the most intense in the Council's long history. Militaristic species demanded restrictions. They argued that a civilization capable of sealing a void fracture was too dangerous to exist unchecked. Others argued the opposite, that such a species was exactly what the galaxy needed. Scientific factions flooded the chamber with data requests. Trade coalitions calculated potential economic upheaval. Ancient races whispered among themselves, sensing the end of an era. Through it all, humanity waited. No threats. No ultimatums. Just presence. Tyrell Wren realized something unsettling. Humans understood leverage. And they chose not to use it. Finally, High Arbiter HFY raised his arm. Enough, he said. The chamber fell silent. The Galactic Council must decide, he continued. Not out of fear. Not out of gratitude. but out of truth. He turned his gaze toward Amora. Humanity has demonstrated capability, sacrifice, and restraint, he said. These are not the marks of a conqueror. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. They are the marks of a peer. That single word sent shockwaves through the chamber. Peer. The ancient arbiter faced the council. We will vote. Symbols lit up across thousands of delegation tiers. Each species would cast its decision, bound by ancient law. Grant humanity a seat. Deny them. Or restrict them under probationary status. The vote began. Lights flickered. Tarl Ren felt the probability field twist violently. Futures branched. Wars. Alliances. Golden ages. Extinction. Every possibility balanced on this moment. One by one, votes registered. Support rose slowly. Opposition surged. The count hung in precarious balance. Then something unprecedented happened. A collective vote signal flared from the oldest races, species that had not altered council law in millions of cycles. They voted in favor. A gasp rippled through the chamber. High Arbiter HFY spoke again. The motion passes. For a heartbeat, the galaxy stood still. Then the chamber erupted. Humanity had been granted full membership in the Galactic Council. No probation. No restrictions. A seat earned not through conquest, but through sacrifice. Amora exhaled slowly. She closed her eyes for just a moment, thinking of the ships lost. The people who would never return home. This is for them, she whispered. The ancient arbiter raised his voice. Let it be recorded, he declared, that humanity enters this council not as a subject, nor as a threat, but as a guardian of shared survival. Tarl Ren felt a chill. Guardians. That was not a title given lightly. As the chamber began to empty, many delegates avoided looking at the human representative. Others approached with cautious curiosity. Fear still existed. But it was changing shape. Outside Station Prime, the human fleet adjusted formation, not in dominance, but in quiet order. Repair crews moved swiftly. Damaged ships were towed home. Humanity did not celebrate loudly. They mourned. They rebuilt. They prepared. And deep within the Council's ancient archives, predictive models updated themselves. Every simulation that once dismissed humanity now failed. Because humans had introduced something the galaxy had never accounted for. A species that evolved not to dominate, but to endure. And to help others endure with them. The celebration never came. That surprised the Galactic Council more than anything else. When new species joined in the past, there were ceremonies that lasted cycles, rituals, feasts, displays of culture meant to impress ancient eyes. Humanity declined all of it. Instead, the human fleet remained quiet. Flags were not raised. Weapons were not paraded. There were no victory broadcasts echoing through space. There were funerals. Across the human vessels, names were read aloud. Faces appeared on screens. Engineers, pilots, technicians, ordinary people who had stepped forward when reality itself began to tear apart. Humanity did not hide its losses. They honored them. Council observer Tarl Ren watched in silence as data streams from human channels crossed public networks. No censorship. No propaganda. Just grief, shared openly. It was unsettling. Most species hid weakness. Humans shared it. High Arbiter HFY requested a private audience 2 cycles after the vote. The chamber chosen was small by council standards, meant for reflection rather than judgment. Amora Solis arrived alone. You have changed us, HFY said without ceremony. Amora shook her head. No, she replied. We revealed ourselves. The ancient arbiter studied her carefully. For millions of cycles, he said, this council believed survival required caution, distance, control. We avoided risks. We avoided change. He gestured toward the stars beyond the viewport. And yet, when existence itself was threatened, it was not our wisdom that saved us. Amora said nothing. It was your willingness to act without certainty, HFY continued. To accept loss as the price of survival. He leaned back slowly. That terrifies us. Amora met his gaze. It terrifies us too, she said quietly. But fear doesn't stop reality. The Arbiter was silent for a long moment. What are you? He finally asked. Amora considered the question. We are a species born on a dangerous world, she said. Our planet tried to kill us with storms, diseases, predators, cold, heat. Then we tried to kill each other. Her voice was steady, but heavy with history. We learned early that survival isn't about being strongest. It's about adapting faster than the threat. Taro-Ren felt the truth of her words ripple outward. HFY inclined his head. The Council believed you would destabilize the galaxy, he said. Amora allowed a small smile. We already have, she replied. But not in the way you feared. News spread quickly after that meeting. Human engineers began working alongside Council scientists, not guarding their secrets, but sharing methods. Not finished theories, but processes. How humans failed fast. How they rebuilt faster. Trade corridors stabilized with human logistics models. Disaster response improved using human coordination systems. Species long isolated by tradition began speaking openly for the first time. Humanity did not lead by command. They led by example. And slowly, quietly, the galaxy changed. Taro-Ren's probability senses adjusted to a new normal. Futures once filled with stagnation now bloomed with branching possibility. Conflicts still existed. Danger remained. But extinction events dropped dramatically across predictive models. One cycle later, a crisis erupted on the far edge of Council space. A collapsing star threatened 5 inhabited systems. Council forces prepared evacuations, calculating losses as inevitable. Human response arrived before the request was fully transmitted. They brought star stabilization platforms, experimental, dangerous, and untested at that scale. They saved 3 systems. 2 were lost. Human reports did not claim victory. They documented failure. And then they improved the design. That pattern repeated. Again and again. Each time the galaxy faced disaster, humans arrived, not as saviors, but as participants willing to risk themselves. Over time, fear turned into something else. Trust. On the anniversary of humanity's admission, High Arbiter HFY addressed the full Council. We once asked what humans wanted, he said. We now know the answer. He looked directly at the human delegation. They want a future. The chamber was silent. Not just for themselves, he continued, but for all of us. Amora stood, not alone this time. Behind her were humans of every background, scientists, diplomats, explorers. We don't have all the answers, she said. We never will. She gestured to the chamber. But together, we can face the questions. Taro-Ren realized then what humanity truly was. Not conquerors. Not monsters. Not miracles. They were problem solvers in a universe full of impossible problems. A species that looked at the void and said, not today. Far beyond Station Prime, new stars were being charted. New alliances formed. Old fears faded. The galaxy had not prepared for humanity. But now, it could not imagine surviving without them. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, unknown threats waited, ancient, patient, inevitable. For the first time in millions of cycles, the universe was not facing them alone. Humanity had arrived. And the galaxy was stronger for it.